think it's a good thing that Fahkumram was announced for season 2 at this time, and not in a spiteful like doomer kind of way or because I like him, because in fact I really don't like this character at all. Fahkumram to me represents when Tekken was starting to sour. As a reminder, here's this Tekken 7 season 3 pass that featured him. Yeah, remember paying for frame data? That's the one. 2 returning characters that were very unpopular. Zafina's my bae, but very unpopular characters, Zafina and Gamryu. And for what was new, first came Leroy. And Leroy was an absolute menace when he came out. Perfect character, easy combos, easy parries, and tournaments were filled with Leroy matches. And I loved his design. Many people loved his design, but even after a few months, he was haunting people's nightmares because of how often we saw him in competitive. But in terms of his design, I still think he's a great design, but he had that stench on him for a while, even after he was eventually fixed. And it took a pretty long time for him to fix, getting nerfed after patch after patch after patch. And just as we were getting over that trauma, and then the DLC frame data, just as we were getting over that, Fahkumram drops down, and you guessed it, he was also busted. Huge as hell, can mix you up from range 3, amazing counter hit tools, guard break, and tournaments were filled with Fak, and we were here like, again? We have to deal with an OP DLC character again? So by then it was setting in that the Tekken team either incompetently or intentionally was releasing DLC characters that were just extremely strong. It was also setting in that Bruce was fucking dead. Right? Any chance of Bruce coming back, even with Josie in the picture, was completely gone with the release of Fahkumram. So the type of players that would really appreciate the no-frills, strictly martial arts, Muay Thai that Bruce represented in both his gameplay and design were left with Fahkumram, whose animations of the fighting style were actually really good. I think that was a really good job in showing that Muay Thai for Fahkumram, but you also have to deal with this really aggressive, like over-the-top design that rubs people the wrong way. Like, I think he's fucking ugly. But, you know, you had to deal with this super big, bulky, weird proportioned character, and personality-wise doesn't really look to have anything going for him as opposed to just being a big, tough guy. So there are people that like him, like perhaps people that are fans of Baki, the anime and manga, but there's a lot of people like myself that just don't, that even appreciating that series, just don't like to see that kind of style in Tekken. So Fahkumram is far from a fan favorite character, but I think that works to our advantage in 2 different ways. The first is that I think that even a beloved character, right, even if Armor King or Bruce came back, was revealed, that just because of the state that Tekken 8 is in, there would still be people, an outcry of people that say, well, that's nice and all, but the game still needs fixing. There's still fundamental issues with the game that we can't even fully enjoy the character that we've waited to have back in the game. I feel like even a hype character reveal would be tainted by the stench of the Tekken 8 Season 2 bouncing issues that we don't know for sure if we'll ever really get out of. So I think a character like Fahkumram, who's not universally beloved, might actually be what we kind of need. Because the other side of this, the second benefit, is that the community's messaging on the dissatisfaction of the game can remain visible. Is that some doomer shit? What the hell does that mean? Well, just imagine if a super hype character was announced as a Fahkumram, like Bruce or Ogre or Jinpachi or someone like that, right? Imagine how everybody would come back to the game to play that character, the player counts would go back up, perhaps DLC or whatever sales go back up, and now Bandai Namco are seeing the numbers that, yeah, the consumer base is happy, and therefore it's possible that they're not going to work as hard, or the changes that need to do to fix the core issues of the game will not be taken to the extent where it needs to go. Reviewing each of the characters' moves, trying them out, trying out different possibilities for fixes, making sure that they work in conjunction with their other moves and the rest of the cast in terms of a balancing aspect, as well as look into some of the global issues with heat, with execution, with Oki and everything else. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. And I'm sure that the Tekken team would like to do nothing more than to wash their hands of this, get over this, and move on to whatever else they have planned. They would not be investing in improving the game if they felt like they did not have to. The lukewarm response to Fahkumram, in my eyes, only helps send the message that they still need to do it. And I say only helps with the messaging because no matter what happens, there's always going to be some amount of mixed messaging by the community to the devs. Even now, where most of the dedicated Tekken community has been asking for the characters to be toned down, We finally get that in the version 2.01 patch, where almost every character is pretty much nerfed with no buffs. We still have people in the community upset about those nerfs, and that's completely understandable. There are many different types of players, and there's a type of player that really enjoys having new tools and doesn't really care about the wider competitive meta of the game. And even if they do care from a logical standpoint, there's still that emotional aspect of getting something they enjoy being taken away. Like, if you give a kid candy and sweets and pizza and ice cream and all that stuff for a long time, and then you turn around and say, actually, we're going to take this away, no more of that, here's some fruits and veggies, that kid's not going to like it, especially at first. So in this patch, a lot of players are losing their candy, and in the upcoming patches, they're going to keep losing their candy in order to return interactivity and depth into the game. And while I think it's good and necessary to do, it's not going to be pretty. There's this behavioral concept called prospect theory, which basically says that people perceive their losses a lot more than they perceive their gains, even if they're of equal material value. It's kind of like any loss has emotional interest, and whenever you're in a proposition to lose something, what your potential gain needs to be some amount higher than that loss. Otherwise, you're not going to feel that you've been properly compensated. So when it comes to the version 2.01 patch notes for Tekken 8, we're seeing a lot of nerfs with no compensation at all on the individual character basis. And while I feel like a lot of these nerfs are kind of superficial and filler, just particularly with the damage nerfs, a lot of the frame nerfs are buffs for everybody else, right? Even though it makes the character technically worse, it makes the game and everyone playing against that character better. And there's no up arrow shown in the patch notes for that. So it's not to say that any nerf or that every single nerf here is a good one, but it's just that the full-bodied reversal of the aggressive nature and direction of the game is refreshing. So if you're in this car careening at 100 miles an hour, it's going to take some time to stop and eventually reverse direction. There's going to be some whiplash. And in the meantime, I think it's fine for a weird character like Fahkumram to get us through this weird transitional phase of the game itself. So yeah, Fahkumram is definitely not the character that would magically save the game, and I don't think any character would. But it does suck that, again, he's DLC, that we've had DLC last time, meaning that we still don't get a good story expansion for his character. It sucks that he doesn't have a cool redesign, like he looks exactly the same too, so that makes the matter so much worse. But I'm hoping, right, pure hopium, that with these next few balance updates, the game and the reception of the game will be in such a great place that we can truly be hyped for the next DLC character, Kunimitsu.